We are living in a time of extraordinary inequality. The gap between the very wealthy and everyone else is accelerating. There are some 2 billion people who live in extreme poverty in this world. People who work for wages in the industrialized world have seen their wages stagnate for decades. Meanwhile, the wealthiest 1% has taken off on a rocket launcher, capturing most of the gains in wealth and income of the last decade. It's not really even the 99 to 1. The 1/10 of 1%, the wealthiest 1/10 of 1% in the United States has more wealth now than the bottom 90% combined. Now, I don't want to offer a gloomy talk about the economic situation of which you mostly are aware of. In fact, I want to take a little bit of a risk and talk more personally about it. You see, I've had a front row seat in my life to these problems of inequality. I grew up the great-grandson of the meatpacker Oscar Mayer. In fact, this is my daughter and I driving to college where we passed the Wienermobile on the New York Thruway. We interpreted that as a sign from the beyond. I went to a private boys' high school with Mitt Romney as one of my classmates. Our school motto was "Aim High," which is depicted by an archer shooting an arrow straight into the air, which, if you think about it, is a very reckless thing to do. See, I don't hate wealthy people. I don't foment class war. These are people in my family, my friends, and my mentors. But I do hate what inequality has done, how it's deepened our racial divisions, how it tears our communities apart. In my day job at the Institute for Policy Studies, I've been working on these issues for several decades and organizing around them. And one of the things we've learned is that these extreme inequalities in wealth undermine everything we care about: the prospects for our children, our physical health, the cohesion of our community, the health of our democracy, the stability of our economy, social mobility. All those things are wrecked and undermined by growing inequality. The French economist Thomas Piketty has pointed out in his research, if these inequalities continue on their current course, more and more wealth will concentrate in the hands of a few, and we will be living with a hereditary aristocracy for a political system. If that's not enough, we also have the dual challenge of climate change. As we wake up to the fact that we've put more carbon in the atmosphere than it can handle, we're experiencing weird weather and other stresses. As Pope Francis reminds us, the people who are going to be injured the most initially by climate change are the world's most vulnerable and poor. That we have to stop extracting and burning carbon from the earth, and we must move to a post-carbon society and economy. We must take care of our common home. These are system problems, that we are living in a period of hyper-consumptive capitalism, casino capitalism, which is destroying nature and creating inequalities at a dizzying pace. If we don't intervene in the system, things are going to go badly. But I have a sliver of hope, which is that if you think about it, these extreme inequalities and this growing climate crisis are bad for everybody, including the wealthiest people on the planet. So with that in mind, I have two invitations. One I'd like to make to the wealthiest 1%, my people. And the other I'd like to invite everyone else to consider something. But first I want to do an informal survey with you. How many of you feel rage toward unaccountable wealth and power in our society? Raise your hand. A lot of people. How many people feel admiration for the things that some wealthy people have done for our society? Raise your hand. How many people would like to be in the wealthiest 1%? Okay. Based on my informal survey, our attitudes towards great wealth is complicated. Think about this. If we're from the United States, chances are most of us are in the wealthiest 5% of the planet. In fact, if you're in the median income in the US, $52,000, we're in the top global 1 to 2%. So think of a Bangladeshi farmer whose land has been swamped by climate change, whose children will become climate refugees because of a century of carbon burning that we've put forward that does not benefit him. How should he look at us? How should he feel toward us? It's complicated. So with that in mind, as I talk about these invitations, I invite us and encourage us to proceed with empathy and consider that some of what I may say is relevant, even if I'm talking to the 1%. Perhaps it's relevant to all of us in the United States, or most of us. My message to the 1%, the ecological catastrophe at our door is actually going to destroy the foundations of real wealth, our ecological home. A century or a generation ago, the wealthy, I should say, it will destroy our common home. What is wealth without clean water? What is wealth without healthy soil? What is wealth on a devastated planet? A century or a generation ago, people could withdraw to denial, to pristine enclaves, but today, that is delusional. To my friends in the 1%, your island paradise will be swamped with sea level rise. Your mountain getaway will be choked with forest fires. You see, we all have an interest in protecting this one and only Earth and fixing the future. So I have 3 parts of my invitation to the 1%. 1, come home. Bring your wealth and your stake in the society to a local place, to an ecosystem. Put down your stake and make sure that the economy works for everybody, not just the wealthy. Care for your own children, but adopt in your heart everyone else's children as your own, and ensure that their lives are as good as your own children's. 2nd, bring your wealth home. We in the 1% control vast amounts of capital. Take it out of the Wall Street casino. Stop chasing speculative returns. Bring the $7.6 trillion hiding in offshore tax havens back to our local communities. Take your money out of the fossil fuel sector, put it in the new economy, the real economy, the new renewable energy. It's emerging all around us. New food systems, new energy systems, small, locally rooted businesses that are meeting our real goods and needs and services. Put your wealth there. Stop warehousing wealth, but give it away. Don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect group, because the moment has arrived. Pay your fair share of taxes so the next generation can have the same opportunities you've had in terms of public education, public investment, and infrastructure. You don't have to think parochially. You can invest in local communities around the world to lift them up. The 4th part of my invitation, or 3rd part, is to proceed with humility, anonymously, and without fanfare. Bring the wealth home. Share deeply. Don't imagine that you have found a purse on the subway, a wallet on the sidewalk. Just give it back, quietly, humbly. So, what's the part of the invitation for everyone else? Here's what I have to say there. I've been organizing for 30 years on these issues of inequality. Unfortunately, we haven't reversed the trend. I also feel rage at disconnected wealth and power. How can one hedge fund manager buy a prescription drug and boost the price 5,000%? We all have to protect ourselves and our communities from the worst aspects of predatory capitalism. But to succeed, we will need allies in the 1%. So here's my suggestion. Find ways to invite the wealthy home, to bring their wealth home, to sit at the table and break bread. This will require proceeding with empathy, even with love and compassion. Think of us as your long-lost cousins who've been taken from you, that we have been wandering in exile, disconnected, looking for a hand. The secret is the system is built on fear and disconnection. If we are attacked, we may respond from fear. If we are shamed, we may respond from anger. If invited, we may show up and engage. Here's the good news. There's a movement of open-hearted wealthy people all over this country. Like my friend Daryl Garner, who over his lifetime built up 40 businesses, amassing hundreds of millions of dollars. He gave the wealth away for his commitment for economic justice. His story is told in a novel called The Billionaire Buddha. Daryl likes to quote Gandhi, "There's enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed." There's the patriotic millionaires, hundreds of one-percenters who are working for fair taxes, for living wages, higher living wages, to reduce the influence of big money in politics. And there is a lot of wealth coming home. Huge amounts of money is being divested from the fossil fuel sector, $2.6 trillion moving back to the new energy economy and the new economy. People in the 1% are waiting to be asked to be part of something bigger and greater. Together, we can aim high, not straight up, but at the right target. The enemy is not the rich, but an economic system that is destroying nature and dividing people. The enemy is the old story of deservedness that justifies wealth and inequality. The enemy is the rigged rules that funnel wealth to the very rich and block opportunity for everybody else. Together, we can rewire ourselves for mutuality. We can heal from the brokenness and disconnection, and we can fix the future. Thank you.